Welcome in to Crossover Report. Three guys with Mike. We are live today. Believe it or not, we figured it out technically with little to no hitches. So good for us. We're talking March Madness. Obviously, I'm Paul Lane. It's Nick Damiani, Neil Doyle. Boys, how are we doing today?
Wonderful. Doing great.
Great.
State got snubbed. We're still doing all right?
They didn't.
Yeah, not shocked. I think there were a lot of ISU fans that are not happy. Even, Dan Muller today making a little headlines with his tweet he put out. That's on Crossover Report, of course. But, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of sad souls, but not – I don't think Nick or I are shocked that they didn't make it. They just didn't have the resume. But hopefully they do well in the NIT, so we will see.
So this is some breaking news. Our YouTube page – that we're live, like I just said, just tweeted to our Twitter account in French. So that's something fun to watch. We're going to dive right into the bracket. We're going to start with the East, kind of just move through it quadrant by quadrant. The East has Villanova as the 1 seed, Duke as the 2, some other teams in there, Florida, SMU, people are really high on. So you guys just want to start with general thoughts. And then we'll move after that into who you think comes out of it. Nick, you want to start?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, Doyle was talking about earlier, it's a tough region for Villanova with probably Wisconsin or Vatech in the second round, most likely Wisconsin. I guess I agree with that. A lot of people like Southern, SMU. Not a big fan of them, honestly. I can see them going first round, but I don't really like the playing game they got. And then you got Marquette and Duke. Duke could be potentially a 1. They seem like they're coming around late in the year here. So what do you want me to just do? Just get into it and say?
Yeah, who you got. Sleepers in the region, who comes out of it?
I guess in this region I got Duke actually coming out. I like how they're hot right now. I respect a good hot team coming in March. It's going to be a good game. I think the Villanova-Duke game could be a game we all want to see. I think it could be a really good one. But I would say a surprise I got is UNC Wilmington making it to the Sweet 16. I'm never a big Virginia guy just for the fact their defense is always there. But, I mean, I think you see scoring droughts too often in the NCAA tournament, then that's what kills teams. And then they're going against a UNC Wilmington team that scores 85 points a game. So they can really light it up, and that's one of the most dangerous things you can have in the first round. And then, I mean, you get hot, you get hot. I didn't want to go chalk with this entire thing, so I was like, it's a 12 is going to beat a 5, and then they're going to beat a 4. They don't just go out after 1 all the time. So I had to make my big pick. That was my big pick there. I liked Marquette in their first round. That's about it for that one.
Neil?
Yeah, no, I agree with Nick. I think the East for the defending champs, Villanova, probably the toughest bracket in my mind. I mean, it's no cakewalk every round. I agree with Nick. My upset, I'm going to take UNC Wilmington over Virginia, the 12-5. But I think Florida gives Villanova a tough game. I mean, Florida's playing at home basically. They're in Orlando for the first 2 rounds, so I think they make it to the Sweet 16 easily. But then Villanova is going to have no cakewalk. I mean, even their second round game, they're playing either Wisconsin or Virginia Tech, who are 2 very good teams. They have very well coached teams. And I agree. I think it's going to be Villanova-Duke. Great game in the Elite 8, Madison Square Garden. And I have Duke coming out of this region as well. Nothing too crazy. I think Duke's playing very well. Like we said, probably could have got a 1 seed possibly with how well they've been playing. But I like Duke out of the East, going to be the Final Four.
I think it's weird that they put Duke in because I think Duke is probably the best 2 seed, right? They would be the 5th 1 seed. It's weird that they put them in the bracket with Villanova, who's the overall number 1. But kind of just reiterating everything you guys said, UNC Wilmington, I think they're probably the best 12 seed in this tournament. They're good over UVA, and then I have them over Florida too. Obviously losing to Villanova. But I think that'll be a good story to watch. SMU I actually really like. They haven't beat really anybody this year. They beat Cincinnati twice. They have early losses. I think the USC, Michigan, a couple other teams. I think they're yearning for a chance to get in the tourney because they couldn't go last year. They paid their dues. SMU past Baylor, losing to Duke. But I think one team to watch is Marquette because Marquette is either going to lose to South Carolina in that first round or they're going to beat Duke and go to the Sweet 16 because they play to the level of their talent, of who they're playing. So they either step up to the competition against Duke or they step down against North Carolina and lose. So I think they're a team to watch. And then coming out of that, I actually have Villanova. I just think that they've been the most consistent team all year. I don't like Duke and I don't like Jason Tatum because he's a coward and a traitor. What else in that region? Loses to SMU in the second round. Baylor, some bad karma coming their way again. They've just been a mess as a whole school this past year. So I think some bad karma. I think that's good. I only shit on like 2 of those teams, so that's good. Any more thoughts on the East, or do you guys want to go to the Midwest?
Yeah, well, with Baylor, I've trusted them the last 2 years to not only win their first game, but also their second game. So as soon as the brackets came out, I was so ready to pick against Baylor, and then I was like, I don't think New Mexico State is going to beat Baylor, though. You know, I thought I was going to get my revenge this year, but I got to stick with them for 1 more year. Disappointing.
Neil, any more thoughts on the East?
No, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't Villanova Duke, but this, I think, by far is probably the toughest region in the tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's go to the Midwest. Nick, you talk about picking Baylor every year. I picked Iowa State to go to the Sweet 16 every year the past like 6 years probably, and they always disappoint. And I know they're going to lose in the first round. I know, but I just could not pick them losing to Nevada. So they're the 5 in the Midwest. You got Kansas as the 1, Louisville as the 2, Oregon in there, Purdue, and a really hot Michigan team, probably the hottest team in the country right now, Michigan or Duke, 7. So let's talk Midwest. Neil, we'll start with you, and then Nick will come to you, and you'll tell us why Vermont is going to beat Purdue this year. Neil, go ahead.
Big shout out to my uncle, Eric Wilson, an assistant coach on North Carolina Central, actually. They'll be playing in that 16-seed play-in game in Dayton on Wednesday. So hopefully they win that. Maybe be the first ever 16 seed to beat Kansas. You never know. No, this is an okay region. I think Michigan is a 7 seed. I'm kind of surprised they got a 7. I thought they might have been a 6, even maybe a 5 with how well they played and winning the Big Ten tournament. Of course, my bias is going to come out. I have a very good feeling about Purdue only because they lost that first game to Michigan. And I think last year they went into the Big Ten championship and still lost to Michigan State, but they were playing so well. I think they kind of thought they were better than they really were. And that's why they got upset last year against Little Rock. I think this year losing that first game as the 1 seed kind of is going to humble them. I actually have Purdue and Michigan in the Elite 8 in this bracket. Midwest, you got to pick Big Ten schools if you're going to be in the Midwest region. So I have a Purdue, Michigan, Elite 8 in the Midwest, and I actually have Purdue in the Final 4. There you go. I know Nick's going to bash me. Looking at the bracket, though, yeah, I do have Michigan beating Louisville. I don't think Louisville is going to play well. I have Rhode Island upsetting Creighton, and that's really the only upset I have in the first round. Otherwise, it's pretty much chalk. But then, like I said, Purdue, Michigan, Purdue in the Final 4 out of the Midwest.
Nick?
I like that a lot, actually. I like Purdue this year, mainly because I don't like Vermont. They don't have the same spunk that a Little Rock had last year. I was hoping they would. I did all my research on it yesterday. I probably spent 30 minutes looking at Vermont, and just nothing was going for me over there. So you survived this year, Doyle. You're lucky you get to move on. I don't know. I like this region. It's nice. Obviously got Kansas moving on. My one upset I would say is Rhode Island. I think that's going to be a hot pick this year over Creighton, mostly because I don't like Big East teams. But then I don't like Oregon all that much. But out of the safety of my bracket, I don't have the balls to pick Rhode Island to beat Oregon in that next round. So I'm going to have Louisville making it out of this one, I think. Oh, no. Yeah, I got Louisville, Oregon, then Kansas, Purdue. I got Kansas in a rout over Purdue, probably by like 20, 25 points. I think Swanigan gets in foul trouble early, and they move on easily. So we get a Kansas-Louisville Elite 8 game, and then I got Kansas actually getting out of this region.
I pretty much have almost the same thing as all you guys. I have Kansas overall getting out of the region. I have Michigan losing the second round, or Michigan winning the second round over Louisville, Rhode Island in the first round. I think Oregon's got potentially going to have a really easy path through their bottom half of the region, even though I don't think they're as good as they were a few weeks ago. They just lost, I think his name's Chris Boucher, one of their best bench players, off of the season torn ACL. That's going to really hurt them, going up against Kansas in the Elite 8. But, I mean, you look at their first-round matchup against Iona, I think they should win that without a doubt. And then second round, either Creighton or URI. I don't think that's an issue. And then either playing Michigan or Louisville, I still don't think that they're significantly worse without Chris Boucher. So Oregon could still make a run, even though they're not very well. And then Michigan, I mean, you can't underestimate how hot a team is in March. I mean, they're the hottest team. So we saw UConn do it however many years ago, win the Big East, then go on and just keep rolling through the tournament. Not that Michigan is necessarily champion pick, but I'm not going to be surprised if they make an Elite Eight berth. I still think Kansas, who feels like they disappoint me every year too. This is like the bracket. This is the part of the bracket that's just disappointing every year. Kansas and Iowa State, they just always shit the bed. But I don't know how they don't win this region. They're like head and shoulders better than every other, like way better than every other team in this region. They're my Final Four team from the Midwest. Let's go down to the South. North Carolina, the 1 seed here. Kentucky down in the 2 seed. UCLA in the 3. I actually think this is one of the better 1 through 4 because Butler is a good team at 4 that has beaten Villanova this year. They've beaten some other top teams. And then Kentucky, UCLA, and North Carolina, all at different points this year, were the best team in the country. So I think this is a really good bracket, really interesting bracket. Neil, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think this region and the East, I think they were saying because of the first 3 seeds in North Carolina, Kentucky, and UCLA have like 25 combined national championships, which is, I mean, it is crazy. They are like the 3 power programs when you think of college basketball. This is a good region, I think, as well. I think in this region you have a 12 seed and a 10 seed who I think got seeded higher than they should have, or lower, however you want to look at it. I don't think Wichita's a 10 seed. I think they're way better than that. They should have been an 8 or 9. Middle Tennessee probably should have been the 10 seed. So I have Middle Tennessee and both Wichita winning their first round matchups. I actually have Wichita beating Kentucky in the second round. Not just because my school is in the Missouri Valley Conference, but getting to watch Wichita play throughout this year, and especially down in St. Louis last weekend. Now, I do wonder, they've had a week off, so does that hurt them? If that team was rolling right into the tournament, if their conference tournament was this weekend, I mean, I could see the Shockers making an easy Elite Eight run. That's just how good this team is. They're going to be even scarier next year because they bring everybody back. But that's a big one. I have Wichita State beating the 2-seed Kentucky in the second round. And then I have Middle Tennessee State making it to the Elite Eight. Sweet 16, beating Butler in the second round. And then I have UNC, UCLA, a power matchup in the Elite Eight. And then I have the 1 seed North Carolina coming out of the South into the Final Four.
Nick?
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. The Wichita-Kentucky thing, I was wavering on that a lot yesterday. I think that's going to be a very good game. I just don't think Wichita's seeing the athleticism that the guards that Kentucky has this year. Missouri Valley wasn't very strong this season, but, I mean, that's a very good team. Like you said, they probably shouldn't have been a 10. They could have been an 8 probably. That's how good they are overall. And then Middle Tennessee's way under overseeded, however you want to say it. I mean, they got guys returning from a team that just beat a 2 seed last year. That's ridiculous. Giddy Potts is one of the best shooters in the country. So I also have them making it out to the Sweet 16 against North Carolina. And then I think the Kentucky-UCLA game might be the best matchup we see in the entire tournament this year in that Sweet 16. But I have Kentucky coming out of that region after they beat UCLA and North Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick. UCLA-Kentucky is going to probably be the most fun game to watch of the entire tournament because you have offenses maybe in college basketball, not the most consistent, but when they're on, when Malik Monk is hitting shots, when De'Aaron Fox is taking to the hole, Lonzo Ball is hitting shots, whatever, that's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. You guys talk Dayton, Wichita State. I actually have Dayton beating Wichita State. Dayton is good. They played very, very well in the A-10 this year. They beat Rhode Island twice. They beat VCU once. They lost their last 2 in the A-10, their last regular season game, then the first round of the A-10 tourney, or whatever round they were in. This Dayton team is not bad. I think they beat Wichita State, then lose to Kentucky. And then Middle Tennessee, I think Middle Tennessee as a 12 seed is like a 1-point underdog against Minnesota, which is crazy for a 12 seed. But I have them winning, then losing to Butler. Like I said earlier, Butler is a sneaky team. They seem like an upset school. Like they can always pull that upset. I don't think they do it against North Carolina, but that's going to be a close game. And then I have North Carolina, UCLA in the Elite Eight in that region. I think UCLA beats North Carolina. It just depends on what UCLA comes, because North Carolina, they've been pretty. You get the same team every game. UCLA though, they've had some moments where it's like they're not even a top 25 team. And that's the same for Kentucky too. If Kentucky comes full game and Kentucky's playing their best, they're as good as anybody in the country. I think that's going to be a really high-powered region. That's going to be interesting. And then we'll go over to one of the more boring regions, if we're being totally transparent here. Gonzaga is the 1 seed, Arizona is the 2, Florida State as the 3. Notre Dame is in there, Xavier, Maryland, some good teams. What do you guys think about this? Nick, you want to start?
First of all, my favorite tournament team of all times in this region with VCU. Automatic pick every year for me in the first round at least. Don't even know if it comes to fruition every year, but I just feel like it always does. So I always just have to pick them. Ever since in I don't know if it was 2007 when they beat Duke or whatever with Eric Maynor or whatever. Every year for VCU. It's a lock. They don't even have Shaka Smart anymore, but I just assume they do. So it's a lock. They move on. Anyways, yeah, boring region. I'm a big Gonzaga hater every year, and they normally end up effing me over in the end. But I'll go with shout out to Northwestern, since we're Illinois people here. I mean, that's pretty impressive. IJP alum, Vic Law. That's a
good program.
That's a standing O. Good for them. Good for them. Yeah. So anyway, I got pretty much chalk this entire thing except number 10 VC beating St. Mary's in the first round. Then I got a little frisky with it later on here. I got West Virginia beating Notre Dame and then beating Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. My thing with West Virginia is they're so boomer bust, it scares me to death. I would not be surprised if they go out in the first round of this tournament, just because we've seen that trap work so well against a team like Kansas, and then they have losses against teams like you wouldn't believe this year. So I actually I'm going to contemplate that pick all the way up until the game day. But other than that, I think I got this whole thing going chalk. I got Florida State and Arizona, and then I got Arizona beating Florida State. So then I got West Virginia and Arizona in the Elite Eight, and I got West Virginia beating Arizona and going to the Final Four.
West Virginia.
Neil,
what do you got?
That's my big turning point if I want to win this thing.
Neil?
Yeah, no, I think this region is probably the weakest of the three. I'm actually kind of mad because Lenardi was projecting Purdue to be the 4 seed in this region, which I would have loved because I think they would have had a very good chance to make it to the Final Four. Still have in the Final Four, but would have been a little bit easier, I think, in this region. I think a lot of people think it is a chalk region, but I would not at all be surprised if a team like Princeton as the 12 and a team like Bucknell were to upset, those higher seeds. But I see it also, like I think of many, going chalk. I have Gonzaga playing Notre Dame and then Florida State playing Arizona in the Sweet 16. But then I have the higher seeds. I have Arizona and Gonzaga both going down. So I have a ACC Elite Eight in the West between Notre Dame and Florida State. I actually have the Seminoles coming out of this region. I think they make the Final Four. I actually saw earlier. Paulie, I think, also has the same route. But this Florida State team played in the ACC. Everybody talks about how tough that conference is. But they had a stretch of, I think it was 6 or 7. They had to play 6 or 7 straight games against a ranked opponent, and they went like 5-1 or 6-1, something like that. Now they've kind of fizzled off towards the end part of the season, but they've played in tough games. They've beaten ranked opponents throughout the year. I think they have a very good chance to move out of this region and make the Final Four. So then that would have them playing Duke, so an ACC Final Four. So I have the Seminoles coming out. But again, this region where it seems like it could be chalk, I would not be surprised if some of those higher seeds like Princeton and Bucknell were to win.
Yeah, Neil, you took the words out of my mouth. From December 31st to January 21st, all of Florida State's games were against top 25 opponents, and they went 6-1 or 5-1. I mean, I don't like when people stroke off the ACC so much for being so tough, but there's no better way to get ready for the tournament than to play a schedule like that where you're playing top 25 opponents damn near every night. I mean, they have nice wins against Duke, against Notre Dame, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Miami a couple times. I just think this Florida State team is a lot better than people are ready for, and I think they get out of the Final Four or get out of this region too, towards the Final Four. Besides that, though, it's a pretty boring region. My couple upsets, I have Xavier over Maryland. I just don't trust Maryland. VCU, like Nick said. I hope our Northwestern boys can beat Gonzaga, but I just don't think so. I mean, it's a nice story. It's a fun story. I think when they're one tournament game, and then whatever, that'll be it. This is a really boring region. This, like Nick said though, this is the region where this is where you pick up your points. This is where you got to go off chalk a little bit and find your team that's going to go to the Final Four that hopefully nobody else has, whether it's Florida State or West Virginia, whoever. Let's move then to our Final Four, and then we'll get to our champion picks. My Final Four, I'll go first this time. How about that? I got Villanova, FSU on the left side. I have Kansas, UCLA on the right. I have UCLA beating Kansas, but I don't know. Like I said, it depends which UCLA shows up. I'd like for LeVar Ball not to be there because I think looking over every time he misses a shot. I think we all known somebody like that in high school. They miss a shot, they got to look towards dad. It's like, no, just keep playing, bud. And then I have Villanova beating Florida State. And then I have Villanova, UCLA in the finals. I think Villanova wins. They've just been the most consistent all year. It harms me to pick the number one overall seed. But they're just that good. They've just been that good all season long. I don't know if they have any bad losses. They got losses. I know to Butler and Marquette. Those are two tourney teams. So I like Villanova winning. Final score 87-81. Nick?
Yeah, I got Duke, West Virginia, and then Kansas, Kentucky. I'll go Duke, West Virginia first. I think finally catches up with West Virginia, and Duke absolutely just smacks them. Duke is just too talented, and they seem like they're finally coming around. Jason Tatum's finally taken over. We've been waiting months for. I'm sorry, Paul. And then Kansas, Kentucky. I think it's going to be another really good matchup with the Blue Bloods right there. But I like Kansas too deep. I like Frank Mason and Graham in their backcourt. So then I got a Duke, Kansas final. Kind of, I don't even know how to say it, but what am I trying to say? Never mind. Just forget it. All right. I got Kansas beating Duke in the final, 82-74. I mean, dude, this year, I have no idea. I think I got a bad bracket this year just because I got no feel for it, I feel like. But I like Kansas. Something in me. 82-74.
Neil?
Yeah, I've got on the left side Duke, Florida State, and then on the right Purdue and North Carolina. I'm going all ACC final, Duke, UNC, playing for the fourth time. Obviously, every game they've played this year has been a thriller. I'm going to go Duke. I just think the momentum that they're riding with into this tournament, they've had that injury bug all year. They're finally meshing together. And like Nick said, I'm sorry, Paul, but Tatum's playing a lot better now. Giles is, finally a bit healthy. I'm going to go Duke 80-77 against the Tar Heels. Another great championship game like we had last year.
I don't know if we're going to have a great championship this year, though, because like I think Nick said on a podcast a couple weeks ago, we've been too spoiled with good championship games. We had the Super Bowl, we had college football championship, World Series. It's been almost. I'm afraid it's going to be a stinker of a tournament because it's just karma coming around at some point.
The one thing we can count on though is that Thursday and Friday are just the best days in sports here coming up. I love it. Oh God.
Thursday, I think you could see it now. I don't know what day they play. They play Thursday. The game Thursday down in Orlando, Florida, in the West region. Florida State, Florida Gulf Coast. Two Florida schools. That might be one of the loudest first-round games in that arena. You have two Florida schools going at it. Florida Gulf Coast is going to travel up the road to Orlando from Fort Myers, and Florida State always travels well as the 3 seed. That might be one of the loudest ever first-round games. It could be a good one. That might be Florida State's toughest game, that first-round game against the Flying Eagles, and then they might be able to coast to the Final Four. And one other thing I wanted to bring up. Now, this is a sore subject for Nick Damiani. Your head coach just got fired at U of I. Rumors have it right now that first-round game over in the South between Dayton and Wichita State, winner of that game might be the new head coach at U of I. Any thoughts on that? I don't know.
I'll take Greg Marshall. That's fine. I don't know why he would leave. He's got a cozy little spot there. They're about to leave the Missouri Valley, I heard.
I don't know. I read something on Twitter. Could be the winner of the Shockers versus Dayton So that would be either Greg Marshall or Archie Miller, who have done great jobs at those programs. And like I said, I don't know why either would leave. Now you're going to a Big Ten school, Power 5 conference. I don't know. It's a possibility. You got your eyes on anybody else, or would those two be fine candidates?
I'm always a Shaka guy. Texas struggled this year. If they want to get rid of him, I'll take him. That's fine.
That was Shaka. That was who they wanted. That's who they went after before Gross was hired. I don't know. Shaka might be settling in at the Longhorns.
I like that.
I don't know if UVI can match that Texas athletic department budget. I think overall, this is going to be a fun. I don't know. I hope it's not a boring tournament, but there are a lot of fun first-round games like Florida State, Florida Gulf Coast. What was the other one I was looking at? Dayton, Wichita State, St. Mary's, VCU. I like when they match the mid-majors up against each other because you at least know those will be close games. You guys have any final thoughts on the tournament, on college basketball?
I think like every year, like they say, you're always going to have your upsets. We've seen over the last 5 to 10 years where some seed, like a 7 or an 8 seed, make a run to the Final Four. But more than not, the numbers show it's normally the top seeds that are going to make it to the end of this tournament. And I think very much so. You're not going to see higher than a 3 seed make the Final Four this year. I think you're going to see your fair share, like always, upsets in the first and second rounds. But this year, especially 1 through 3 seeds should be in the Final Four.
I said it last year too. I hope there's not a lot of upsets because last year, remember, it was like, oh, look at all the upsets. They're so much fun. And then it's like, well, who's going to watch Middle Tennessee State and SF Austin in the second round? Nobody. Who's going to watch Middle Tennessee against whoever, Kansas in the third round? Nobody. It's going to be a blowout. So
Winthrop this year, Paul. That'd be a good Middle Tennessee Winthrop.
Oh, I would be so excited about it. Oh, fingers crossed we can get that. Those are not the fun upsets. The fun upsets is like a UConn as an 8 seed making a run because they've got guys who you can root for. Michigan this year, but if we see some 15 seeds making a run, I'll hard pass on that. I think that's gonna go ahead and do it for this podcast, this video, I guess too. Wonderful time of year. It's March. Only a couple more weeks of college basketball season, unfortunately, but we'll keep it going with the coverage, with the NBA coverage, baseball season, golf season too. I don't know if golf's got a season.
Oh, yeah.
On crossoverreport.com, on our Twitter, on our Facebook, everywhere. I'll probably put some clips of the show up on Instagram. Follow us there at Crossover Report. That's going to do it for us. That's Neil Doyle. That's Nick Damiani. He's got one more point, though.
March Madness bracket on Crossover Report, correct?
Bracket on Crossover Report. I don't know if we're going to have a prize this year. We might not have a budget. One of our sponsors, this is a little behind the scenes for everybody. So we had a sponsor, if you ever listened to mine and Millsy's football podcast back in the day, White Tie Fantasy. I think they went out of business. I think because I tried to email the guy and it got sent back like 6 times. Said this email doesn't exist. So we don't have a spot. So budgets are tight nowadays. But if you want to sponsor us, email us, whatever works for you guys. But yeah, that'll go ahead and do it for us. Until next time, have a great day, everybody.